Hello, and welcome back for part two of our third episode here of Tales of Escuria. So, Vixen, you have been desperately running from place to place, trying to keep track of what's going on around you, trying to avoid as much danger as you possibly can. And as you are running, you notice that there is a symbol that's been carved into the wall on the side of one of these buildings. This symbol is not necessarily known to you, but what it is basically a triangle, and then inside of it, um, there is a small kind of carved sigil, um, and right in the center of this sigil is stabbed a dagger. And trailing down from this dagger, there are two red threads, kind of ribbon that's been wrapped around the hilt and then loops down. Do you get a closer look at it?
Yeah, I'll take a closer look.
Okay. So when you get a closer look at it, you notice that written on it in many languages, Undercommon is on there, but also Normal Common. You notice that there is something that you recognize as being Abyssal. You also see, basically, in pretty much all of the languages that you would expect to find in the Underdark, there is the same message which is written on these trailing down ribbon. And the message that is written is freedom today, freedom tomorrow, freedom forever.
Okay. And it's did and I take it the dagger was made to make the symbol.
Um, if you can give me a perception check for that one.
Okay. Da, da, da.
It's difficult to tell. It seems like parts of the sigil have been carved into the wall, but parts of it look like they've almost been burned, perhaps. It's it's very difficult to tell, and you feel like that's probably part of the point of it, is that they don't want to make it easy for someone to be like, oh look, someone carved this into the wall with this dagger. That it's supposed to have a certain kind of level of mystery to it, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna use detect magic on it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You get the sense that the sigil itself is not innately magic, but you definitely get the sense from certain points of it that magic was used in at least some way to create the sigil. Be that someone using magical fire to burn it into a space, or using magic to split the stone. But you're not entirely sure how precisely, but you know that someone used magic at least partly to create this sigil. Um, and there's a slight magical um, kind of aura coming off the dagger, but only very slight.
Mm. Okay, I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna take the dagger.
Okay. Um, as you reach towards the dagger, are you doing it kind of like carefully, like reaching towards it, or are you just kind of like rip off the band-aid, pull out the dagger?
Um, I was gonna go casually at first, but I think on detecting magic, if there's not that much, I'd probably not be bothered. So I'm just gonna go for it.
Okay. Yeah. As you do, um, you pull it out, and there's a kind of shifting, creaking, cracking sound that happens from within the sigil, and the sigil uh, it lets out purple sparks, kind of similar to those that were coming from the arcane energy in those clouds that you saw. And then the sigil seems to almost fold in on itself and just disappear, and the wall looks as if there was never anything there.
Mm, okay. Well, that was unexpected.
Um, Now that you're holding this dagger, um, looking around, something seems to be very. Something is kind of niggling at the back of your perception. Something that you can't quite put your finger on, but it's almost as if when you're holding this dagger, it has a kind of weird magnetism to it. You get the sense that it's trying to pull you in a specific direction, not like strongly or anything, but you get the sense if you turn around that when you're facing a specific direction, that the dagger seems to be kind of aligning itself with that direction.
Interesting. I will follow where it's leading.
Okay. Yeah. This leads you um further away from the arcane clouds that have been swirling over the blade pit. Um and it seems to be leading you to a point in the Adamantine Bazaar. Uh it doesn't seem to be working like a compass so much. It doesn't seem to be consistently pointing in one direction. It seems to lead you in one direction, and then almost when you get to a certain point, shift and point in another direction. It's more like it's giving you directions to a place than just pointing you in the general direction.
Mm, okay.
Do you just keep following it?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Um. So as we kind of leave you as you are following this dagger, and you round the corner to see uh, this small cluster in the Adamantine Bazaar, and as you are walking, the dagger seems to start functioning slightly more like a compass. So you get to, but next to this stall, this strange collection of eclectic objects. Um, Most of the market has been abandoned due to all of the panic around the blade pit. There are still a few who are kind of milling around. There are a few shopkeepers who are desperately trying to um, gather in their goods and load them up or lock them away for the night. But as you're walking past this one particular stall, the dagger seems to kind of turn of its own volition and point towards it. So whichever way you are when you're on this street, the dagger is pointing to this specific stall.
Mm. Can I take a closer look at the stool?
Absolutely. Give me a perception check.
Heh.
Okay. So yeah, you immediately recognize from looking at this stall that um, it seems to be um, it seems to be a stall that claims to sell magical objects. Though you also know from your understanding of magic as it's kind of flavored by your upbringing in the priesthood, you know that some of these objects are claimed to be kind of uh, talismans of Lolth or protections of the Spider Queen or those kind of things, and you can tell from looking at them that at least half of them are just tat.
Mm-hmm.
That it's basically like you can tell that some of the stuff here is probably actually magical, but a fair amount of it definitely isn't. You also notice that in amongst all of these stalls where people have been either rummaging around and trying to loot or trying to keep their things locked away or any of those kind of things. Most of the merchants have like snuffed out their lanterns. This one seems to be just pretty much untouched. that it's no one seems to have tried to loot it. No one's extinguished a lantern. No one even seems to have tried to make any attempt to save any of the objects are there.
Mm.
It's not so much that it's been abandoned as it's just not been touched at all.
Oh, that's suspicious. Could I tell exactly what the dagger is leading me to
Uh,
specifically on that table?
it doesn't seem to be pointing to anything on the table itself. Behind the table, there's a kind of covered doorway. It's almost like there's a tent set up behind it, um, which is a fairly common thing in the Adamantine Bazaar. That quite often they have the traveling merchants will set up a stall by basically just pitching their tent and then putting a table outside the entrance. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, you can see that um, the entrance to this tent, one of like the tent flaps has been tied open, and you can see that there is some light from inside it.
So there is someone in the tent.
Not
Suppose
necessarily,
not
you just know that there's light.
necessarily. Okay. Can I take a peek in the tent?
Uh, sure. Give me a stealth check, please.
No.
Okay, yeah. So you're able to kind of tap into that kind of primal awareness that you have as part of your um part of your shifter self,
Yeah.
and using that you're able to um it's almost like you go from one moment being kind of like a normal person standing upright to suddenly you're like hunker down on like the tips of your fingers and your toes, like crawl like a fox, just kind of dart around to outside this tent opening.
That's so cool.
Um, and yeah, as you peek inside, um, you can see that there is inside there a mint green tiefling, and
Mm.
he is sat there. There's a fire, like a small fire pit in the center of this tent, and he is sat cross-legged in front of it with his eyes closed. He seems to be meditating or something similar, and you can see that he has various different ornaments hung from bits of his clothing, and you can see that he has like imitations of arcane sigils that have been carved into his horns. You can tell from your knowledge of reading the text that most of them are at least slightly off and would have absolutely no actual use. And definitely not when placed next to each other. He's basically just written gibberish on his horns, but it looks
Mm.
cool. So,
Hmm.
and he definitely seems to have no clue that you are even there.
Well, I don't want to alarm him. Okay, I ruffle the front of the tent.
Okay. Um, when you do so, he doesn't um he doesn't open his eyes or anything. He's just kind of he has this kind of placid look on his face, and then kind of like one corner of his mouth kind of like pulls up into a smile, and he's just like, hmm, I didn't even hear you approach. Interesting. Also interesting that you would find this place in this particular time. I imagine you are curious. So tell me before I open my eyes. Are you a friend or a foe?
Hmm. Not knowing as to what you're referring, that's kind of a hard question to answer. I can see that the wares outside show a lot of artifacts in relation to love. Um, I can only assume from that that I would potentially be a friend, but that all depends on you.
Hmm. It would certainly seem so. Well, it is true that I do have some artifacts relating to the Spider Queen. I do also have some artifacts relating to other gods. I myself am not.
Mm. Can I show you something?
At that point, he opens his eyes kind of slowly and looks in your direction, and then he slowly nods and says, "By all means."
Okay, I sit down in front of him and I put the dagger on the floor.
Okay. He looks at it and he picks it up in one hand and he seems to balance it on one of his fingers and then kind of he seems to play with it almost like he's like flipping a pen around in his fingers. He's kind of passing it from one hand to the other and he's just like, "Yes, I see now that you are a friend. These this dagger, I how do I put I like curious people. I like people who have a sense of wonder. People who see something they do not understand and immediately want to grasp it. These are my kind of people. Now you," and says,
Hmm.
"You are a curious person. I find you personally quite curious. Tell me, what is your name?"
Vixen.
"That is quite a name. I myself go by Hawk."
That's nice to meet you.
"Yes, it is a pleasure to meet another curious person, especially in such a place as this. True, we get many strange people, but few curious people. Now, tell me, Vixen, what do you know of the Ascendancy?"
What do I know of the ascendancy?
Give me a history check.
Okay.
Um, so you know what you've been taught from your perspective of the
Hmm.
Ascendancy, which is basically that a few years ago, in the last decade or so, there has been uh, a kind of slave uprising that has happened
Hmm.
in some parts far away, nowhere near Korith, nowhere near Sakani, nowhere near any of this kind of stuff. Uh, but mainly because House Ledderlazy were bad at handling the situation and cowardly, as you have been told. Um, these slaves seem to have got the idea that they deserve freedom, and they have managed to capture a city down in the south and capture the island that it belongs on and basically establish their own place where they believe that everyone can be free. And at that point, it kind of clicks in your head the ribbon and the message. Um, you know that that is part of the rhetoric that they use. Members of the ascendancy, or quite often, it's kind of their battle cry
Hmm.
is freedom today, freedom tomorrow, freedom forever. So yeah, that's that's the basic gist of what you know.
So the city of slaves.
Yeah, basically.
Hmm. Okay, I relay that back to him.
He listens and he says, "Yes, that is one way of seeing things, certainly. Well, let us just say that I made these daggers, and I made them for a specific purpose. That being that only those who have recently found their freedom, only those who seek their freedom, and have the strength of will to take it for themselves in their hands, will find their way here today. And given how many of these daggers I put out there, it is perhaps a sadness, or perhaps simply a twist of fate, that you so far are the only one here today. So what say you, Vixen? Do you want to take your fate into your own hands?
I want to take my fate into my god's hands.
Hmm. Well, perhaps the two are not mutually exclusive. I remember some of what I've learned from my readings on the Spider Queen. She is. Hmm. Well, she favors those who are strong, those who have the power to take what they want. Do you believe that your god favors you, Vixen?
I believe earlier today I may have impressed her, although that might not be the right word. I think she has noticed me.
Ah. The notice of a god. A blessing, a curse, maybe both, maybe neither. But an interesting situation indeed. So, if you believe that your god is watching, what do you think she would want you to do now?
Mm. I would rather ask her myself.
Hmm. Well, consider this place a temple to whomever you wish. I will not stop you.
Could you leave me alone while I pray?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So yeah, he gets up, and there's a kind of jingling of the various different bangles and small ornaments that he has on his person as he gets up, and he walks away. And as he leaves the tent, he kind of loops his finger around a little piece of wire, a little piece of rope, and just kind of like flicks it with his finger. And as he leaves, the tent flap kind of gently flows downwards and closes to give you some privacy.
Fabulous.
Okay, so what do you want to do?
I am going to sit. Well, I'm still sitting on the floor. I'm going to cross my legs. I keep the dagger in front of me. I haven't touched it unless he's put it down. I'm not sure if he put the dagger down or if he took it with him.
The dagger is on the floor, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm going to close my eyes and I am going to pray to my God and see if she answers.
Okay.
Great goddess, mother of the dark, I pray, what must I do show me a sign. Tell me, where must I go from here? Silk Mother it has died. I am lost. I need guidance.
So, what happens in this moment is the fire in the room around you, there is a kind of sudden burst of air, of wind that rushes seemingly from nowhere, and the fire is extinguished. And then from the small kind of cinders and ashes, a small flame bursts out from this complete darkness around you, illuminating just enough so that you can see that around you, you are no longer in the tent. You are now in what seems like an infinite field of black, of nothingness. And in this field of nothingness, all that you can hear is tiny skittering. It sounds like a billion tiny footfalls from every conceivable direction until finally, after you kind of implore, after the sense within yourself that you need this guidance grows so strong, you finally hear a voice respond to you. You are a funny little thing, aren't you? Well, seeing as you asked so nicely, I think that what we need really around about now is a little chaos. See, the world is a complex web of relationships, people, societies. Everything is interconnected. Do that in whichever way you may wish. Honestly, I think it's more interesting that you decide for yourself. But for now, I will just say this. And if you choose to be a slave, then I doubt we will speak again. And then suddenly the firelight comes back up, and you are back in the room. And it's almost as if all of that happened in like a split second, because your awareness kind of comes back, and you can still hear like the sound of Hawk leaving the tent. Like
That's
you
so
can
cute.
hear that he took like maybe 2 steps, and he's still just leaving.
Okay, I call out to him. Hawk, I've made my decision.
You hear him turn around and walk back in through the tent, and he's just like, "Mm, God's work fast these days. What does it do to decide?"
I will take my freedom. I'm not sure
He
where it will lead me,
gone.
but at this moment, I'm free to do as I choose.
That you are. That you are, my friend. And then he kind of reaches out a hand to you. He's kind of standing above you, kind of like he's kind of like reaching down to kind of like pull you to your feet.
Okay. I take his hand.
Yeah. He pulls you up to your feet, and then kind of like clasps your hand in between like both of his and gives you like a kind of thorough handshake, and he's just like, "Welcome to the Ascendancy, friend. Let's raise some hell." Okay. Now heading back um to 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 Gimbal. Um, you are making your way through the city, and all around you seems to be this sense of utter chaos, basically.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, you're used to like the hustle and bustle that comes with Sakani. Specifically, you're used to the way that things are around in kind of the Soots and the Adamantine Bazaar, where everything is kind of crowded together. There's no sense of personal space. Everyone is just kind of everywhere at all times. Um, this is something that you're very familiar with, indeed. Um, but it definitely seems to be of a different kind of hustle and bustle. It seems almost as if you're coming in through this gate, and you realize as soon as you do manage to get through with the rest of the caravan that it seems like a fair amount of people are being kind of like held at bay by like shield bearing guards of people who are trying to like leave the city.
I mean, that's obviously very unusual. It sort of ties in with obviously the increased security at the gates.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Obviously, I've been in the city before. Do I have any like contacts in the area at all?
You definitely do. You are in fact here to meet with a contact. The reason that you came to Sakani was to meet with a mutual friend who shares the same political views as you.
Cool. Okay. What I'll do is I'll go up to Varney once the caravan's moved in a little bit. I'll go up to Varney and sort of do like a little bow if I can. Obviously, it's very congested and
Hmm.
there's lots going on, but just sort of give him a bow and say, look, thank you, my friend. You have aided me well in the city. Um, if ever you need my help, just ask for Gimbal Tinai and I will assist if I can.
Varney kind of gives you a wide smile, and uh, he attempts to kind of return the bowing gesture, um, but you can tell that like he doesn't quite have the dexterity necessary to do it properly. So he just kind of
just
like
give, just
vaguely bends, and he's just like,
okay. I'll give him a little smile and just sort of nod my head and move
Mhm.
off um, through Sakani. Um, I will head um, my contact. What I'll do is just sort of heading straight there because obviously my cat's just a bit wary because obviously he's always but he's going to be just a little bit west. So I'm going to sort of more um, with quite a wary route, sort of going off at different angles and not going to use trying to avoid the marshal because that would seem to indicate high contingency of God.
Mhm.
Just trying to go around that so the not taking the use, but yeah, head rather than going straight to the contact. I want to get to the area where the contact is, and just try and get an idea of what's happening in that area first.
Okay. Um, I'd say for this kind of um, long and winding route that you want to take, for the sake of wariness, give me a stealth check.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
Um,
that'll do.
yeah, you are well versed in how to kind of weave your way through crowds and weave your way around buildings. You're well versed at keeping your bearings in these kind of situations. Um, Partly because as a gnome, you find yourself quite often having to weave your way through crowds because people aren't going to make way for you. They don't realize you're there. Um, and also partly um, you're kind of your training when it comes to navigating um, the kind of caverns of the Underdark and navigating your way through the land comes in quite useful when it's trying to keep your bearings, even if it's in a city. Um, so yeah, you manage to weave your way through the various different crowds and round the tiny buildings and outcroppings. You manage to basically avoid the main roads almost entirely, mostly going through various different alleyways or minor side roads. And eventually you find yourself in the Adamantine Bazaar. Um, and you find yourself standing outside a familiar shopfront that you have been to a few times before to meet with this contact of yours, your friend Hawk.
Okay. I'm sort of going to walk past a bit. I want to sort of like look at it and the area around it, as if I'm browsing, just sort of trying to see if it. I mean, I'm character's not a thief, and cities aren't my forte, but I do want to just sort of try and keep an eye out just to see if there's anything out of place. Anybody, because obviously there's obviously a sense of heightened security in the city, and because of obviously the sort of stuff I do, I want to make sure that we haven't been compromised.
Okay. Make a perception check for me.
Should leave my cat sheet open, but
Okay. Yeah, you get the sense from looking around that uh, there's barely anyone around anyway. And those who are around are not paying attention to you. They are busy trying to pay attention to either the thieving that they are trying to do or trying to prevent the things that they have from being thieved. Um, so yeah, it's not quite like storefront looting at this point, although there's like a little bit of that. It's mainly just people being kind of opportunistic in the area, just being like, well, no one's looking, I'll just grab this object and kind of walk off with it.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, from your scan of the area and um, your understanding, no one seems to be paying attention to you. No one seems to have been following you, and it's an uncanny thing that you have found quite often, and you're almost certain that um, there is an arcane nature to it. That when you're in the vicinity of Hawk's shop, the vast majority of people just seem to find themselves walking away, walking in the other direction, or looking at something else.
Oh right, okay. Um, okay, yeah, I'll approach it and try and. I mean, no one, as I said, no one seems to be taking much attention to me anyway. So approach the shop. Is there like a certain system I have of going in? Do I go through a side door, knock, or is there any when going in, or do I just walk in?
Um, I'm going to leave this up to you. If you think that your character would be the kind of person to be like, there is a secret knock and a signal, then
Right, okay.
you can. But if not, then just say that it's not.
Okay. Well, I will work on the presumption, as you say, people tend to look at gnomes, etc., as quite unassuming. Um, so to see one acting weird, doing weird, or walking in the doorway sideways, or some other sort of weirdness that would actually more likely alleviate it. So I sort of just basically just walk quite casually, um, and just go in and see what the situation is actually in.
Okay. Yeah. You walk in, and just as you walk in, um, you see Hawk as you're expecting to, and just you also notice that there is someone you weren't expecting to be there as well. Um, there is um, a fairly young-looking woman who seems to be wearing some of the kind of accoutrements that you would expect someone from House Corif to wear. Um, and she also seems to have a necklace on, which has a brass spider emblem on it, which you would definitely recognize as being one of the holy symbols of Lolth.
Okay. Has she got like a mask on?
Do you currently have a mask on, Vixen?
I don't currently have it on, but as I notice him coming in, I put it on.
Oh, so I walk in and see them put the mask on. Okay. Yeah, I'll just sort of just nod at Hawk and just sort of say, please, deal with your customer. I can wait. And has he got like stuff on the shelf?
Inside his tent, like there's small bits gathered around. You get the sense this is more kind of a living quarters for him as opposed to the storefront. It's more kind of there's boxes around and such, and he's just like, no, my friend, don't worry about it. This is perhaps someone who may be in need of your services soon.
Okay, just look out the door. Make sure there's nobody just loitering around the entrance. Really? So she needs a guide, does she?
Well, I think I would rather let the lady talk for herself.
I'm going to sort of turn to this. Right. Well, if Hawk says then you are to be trusted, then I have no reason to doubt. Do a bow. Is Gimbal a traveller from these lands? Travel between cities and can help move from each city if they wish to.
Nice to meet you. I'm Vixen. Where is it you're heading now?
I've arrived where I'm heading. Destination. As I said, I do not have any particular place I go. I help those who need help. I take people where they want to be taken, and if need be, without other people seeing them.
Do you have a price?
What price is freedom? There is no price on that. To help people is all I ask. I'm sure Hawk himself wished this sort of chat, discussion to be held in his. Or as sturdy as this tent is, there will be people maybe listening outside or trying to see what's happening. I suggest maybe let Hawk go about his business and seek a drink somewhere and chat quietly where others will not hear.
I think we're okay where we are.
Okay.
I think as you don't have a current destination, I will come with you. I'm curious as to where you might lead me. But as far as a friendship would go, let's just say you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And we'll leave it at that.
Well, okay, that's one way to look at it. As to where I'm leading you, the nearest bar that can serve a decent drink and enable me to relax and feel comfortable. I take it there's a bar nearby that I know that I can frequent and not about people eavesdropping or.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's one that you and Hawk have met at a few times. If you've both kind of felt that it's maybe not safe there've been a couple times when Walker's definitely been kind of under the eye of the guard of Sakani. He's an eccentric figure. He's quite easily spotted, and there've been a few times when he's come into a little bit of conflict with the law. He's never been caught of anything. He's never been accused of anything. But just for safety's sake, a few times you have had to meet somewhere else.
Okay.
And this place that you have met him a fair few times is a bar called the Galloping Pig, which happens to be kind of fairly near the docks. It's about a 10-minute walkish away from where you are.
Hawk, I do wish to ask before we leave, though. It's blatantly obvious as you walk through Sakani, something has occurred. Something's happened. What's with the extra guards? What's with the street?
He looks at you. Let me see how. I'm gonna have you make a roll, but I'm trying to figure out which one it would be. Give me an insight check.
Insight. Oh. Okay. Fine. Oops.
Okay. So there's a slight kind of pause, and then he's like, well, there was some kind of attack on the Blade Pit. There was supposed to be a big fight or something. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to these things. But there was an attack, and it was a bad one. A lot of people were killed, many more injured. The Forge Master himself, he lost an arm. It was pretty
Oh dear.
bad.
No wonder they are so tense.
Yeah, well, you know what these people are like. As soon as anything happens, it's summon the guard, block the gate. You know, if you present someone with a sword from the age of 5 and tell them to solve every problem with the sword, you know what you're going to get. When a problem happens, out comes the sword.
Yes. Sometimes words are far better.
Precisely, my friend. Though you have always been better with words than I have.
Maybe not so much better, just reliant on the sword. Well, we shall leave you in peace. We shall sit down, have a drink, a chat, and see. Intend to be here for a few days at least. I travel, and there may well be others who require help. So, I will be at the Galloping Pig for a time. So, if there's any others that need help, obviously, please send them my way.
Of course, my friend, of course. Though, before you leave, just one last thing. He picks up the dagger that was on the floor,
Mhm.
and there's the long trail of ribbons that are kind of flowing down from it, and he kind of clasps his fingers together in kind of like a claw shape, and a small ball of fire is summoned in it, and with that he kind of um touches one end of the ribbon to the fire, and the fire just consumes the ribbons, um, burns them off into kind of little white sparks that seem to just kind of fly off magically, and then just leaving kind of the little red wrapping around the dagger's handle. Um, he walks over to you, Vixen, and then spinning it in his palm so that the handle is pointing towards you. He kind of bends down in kind of an extremely ornate bowing gesture and presents it to you, and is just like, a gift for the recently free.
Thank you, Hawk. I take the dagger. Come by and have a drink with us later.
If the lady insists.
Should hope so. She's paying me.
Am I?
Sadly, funds are not what they are. They should be. Travelling from city to city is the best way to gather coin.
Okay.
Um,
And I think with that, you guys leave the tent, and I think that's where we're gonna have to leave it for tonight, guys.
oh.
Finally meet somebody.
Okay, should I
Okay.
stop the stream?
I'll just say a quick goodbye.
Yes.
So thank you everybody who came to watch the stream tonight. I had a lot of fun GMing it. I hope you guys had a lot of fun playing, and I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching. So yeah, just as we said at the beginning of the stream, this is in association with Horsham Gamers. If you want to know more about us, we are a local kind of group to the Horsham area, Horsham and West Sussex. If you're from the local area and you want to say hello, you want to meet some people who have some shared interest in all kinds of gaming, not just tabletop, also consoles and PC and board games and whatever you like, then please drop us a like on Facebook at Horsham Gamers, say hello, come join us in Discord and have a chat, and it'd be lovely to meet some of you. So thank you for coming, and have a lovely time, guys, and we will see you this time next week for a Christmas special.